Salut. Ça va? Santé.
Coucou, bienvenue from France. Welcome back to the show where we talk about life, different perspectives, and a petit peu du français, usually with a glass of wine or a spritz. Well, thank you all for coming back today. Today, I'm actually going to be doing the continuation of the Q&A from about a month ago. So those of you that remember this, a lot of you wrote in amazing questions and I answered actually all of them. And unfortunately, about a month ago, the video cut out about halfway through. And so we never released the second half of the audio. So the audio continued, but the video cut out. So today, what I'm going to be doing is there won't be a video with this, but you will definitely hear me answering the rest of your questions from your previous Q&A. So thank you again for submitting your questions. I always love to hear from you. And I will be doing another one of these in the next month. So if you don't already, follow us on Instagram at cuckoo.pod, and you will be able to submit your questions there as well. Okay. Itineraries by Hannah has her next question. I'd love to hear a little bit more about motherhood in France versus the US. Love the podcast. Oh, thank you, Hannah. That's super sweet. Okay. I feel like I should do a whole episode on motherhood in France versus the US because there are just so many different things about being a mother here than in the US. So let me just name a couple that are more personal of like things I've changed as a mom here that I don't think I necessarily would have in the US. So one is I worry a lot less here about my kids in multiple ways. So I used to worry about safety at school. You know, there was literally active shooter drills. Like I would really worry about that. I used to worry about like where my kids were relative to other kids, like both academically, socially, sports, like in every aspect of their life. Like, were they keeping up? Like, was I enrolling them in like the right extracurricular activities? Was their day balanced enough? Like, it was constant. I would worry about what they were eating, like if it was healthy enough and was I getting them enough fruits and vegetables and were they taking this vitamin? And that was a worry. Then I would worry about like they were young, but just I didn't necessarily feel comfortable like giving them any little bit of freedom. Like I felt like they needed to be by my side. Like even if they would like run, you know, in the playground for a bit, I would like always have my eye on them just to make sure I knew where they were. A lot of that has been so much more lax here. Like I just trust a lot more. Like I feel like I'm adopting a bit more of the French mom perspective where you raise your kids the best you can. You raise them in an environment that's good. And then you sort of like let go of a lot of things. Like I don't really worry as much like if my kids, I know they're not exposed to as many extracurricular activities as they were in the US. And I'm honestly okay with that. Like I would rather have like less anxious, happy kids than be shoving them like to 8 million activities just to get them exposure for what might help them in the future. Like it's just too much for me personally. With regard to food, they eat at school like a 3-course healthy meal every day. And that makes me feel so much better than when I was like packing a lunch and they would never eat it. And then I didn't know like what they would actually eat. And so I can like, and then I know I'm cooking like really local and healthy at night. And that just like takes a lot of that anxiety out. Obviously the safety piece here is a lot different from the US. Like it's very safe. Like I'm even thinking about trusting my 9-year-old to like walk places like by himself a little bit in the city because it's just, he speaks the language now and he's, you know, getting a little bit more autonomous. And that's something I probably wouldn't have ever thought about doing at 9 in the US. So I would say just kind of like the freedom and like trusting that you're parenting in a good way and letting go of some of that worry has been a big motherhood shift. I would say the other thing is kids are allowed to be kids a lot longer. Like there's just a lot like more preservation of childhood. And what I mean by that is like the girls at young ages aren't like caught up in makeup and Sephora and like what trend they should be wearing. Like they just don't care. They just want to play dolls at age 7 and be kids and, you know, color and draw. And they're just not like trying to advance to become like a teenager as fast as they possibly can. That just doesn't really exist, which I love. And I would say for my son and in general, there's just a lot less like screens and technology. There's not this draw to like constantly like, when do I get a phone? When do I get a phone? I mean, sure, my son once in a while asks, but no one at his age at 9 has a phone. It just in just this last winter that we bought our kids an iPad to share. They had never played Nintendo. We bought them a Nintendo Switch this past Christmas, not because they were necessarily asking, but just because we felt like, well, they're kind of old enough. And if we are able to incorporate into life, it doesn't become this big thing that's like, I never had that. And it's more about like balance and integration for us than it was about like they desperately were begging us for these things. So I would say technology is also a big thing. And now that can be good and bad. Like I would say in the schools in France, they are not using technology to the degree that they are in the US. And I'm actually going to interview my sister who's a teacher in Chicago. And I know she's talked about how many like different, how they're really all on like smart boards and everyone's doing things on screens. Like not in France. They are still like old school chalkboard. My kids are learning cursive. It's kind of like they always joke like France is in the 90s. And I think that's actually in a lot of ways a good thing. But we are like doing more at home to expose our kids to technology in terms of like computers and understanding what AI is, just because we are American and see that as the future and want them to still understand that, even if it's not being taught at schools. So more to come. I will share much more, Hannah, about motherhood, but thank you for your question. And I will move on to the next question because we are running. I know this is a lot of questions and I'm trying to get through as many as I can. Okay. Shake Hey said, what's the mom culture like in X? Is it competitive or friendly? This is such a like good question, because if somebody asked me that question when I was living in San Francisco, I would have immediately answered like, I would say competitive, but like hidden competitive, where people pretend they're not competitive, but actually are really competitive, especially among moms. And everyone is like watching each other and kind of keeping up with how their kids doing and what camps their kids are in and what feeder schools are getting into these schools. And like, that's definitely the culture. And even the mom culture of like, what's that mom wearing or driving, or that's so prevalent in San Francisco where I lived. Here, like, I guess because I'm an expat, but I would also say my French friends would somewhat agree with this. I only find it friendly. Like, it's so great. I just don't, I mean, yes, I would say, sure. Is there some like mom culture of like, oh, she's got this cool thing and that looks great. And sure, there's a bit of that. But in general, like the moms actually just want to get to know you. And I would say like the culture is more interesting, and cultural differences and what your background is, like how you grew up, what country you grew up, what language you grew up speaking is like sort of supersedes any of the more superficial things of being competitive. Like people are looking to meet people, like to be friends, to get to know someone on a deeper level. And a lot of us, especially as Americans that are living here, we're craving that, like craving real friendships that went beyond just talking about superficial things. And it's definitely something I've really found here and absolutely loved. And I have heard that from other moms who have lived, not necessarily even in France, but in other countries like Italy, Spain. My mom friends who are abroad have found the same thing. So it could be a bit of expat culture. It could also be a bit of the culture here, just because the international schools and things, it's much more diverse than where my kids were in the US. And it sort of like strips away the sea of sameness. And so you're able to relate on like more deep levels and get to know someone for like who they are, where they came from, like what they want to share about their background. And I don't know, I find that much more rich and compelling than I did like on what kind of shoes or handbag I was carrying in the US. So that's a great question. And yes, if you're considering moving abroad, that is one of the like huge positives I have found here. Okay, next question. Grennan Britton. I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm sorry. You asked, what do French women think about our obsession with them? It's so funny. I think they actually find it like amusing. Some of them aren't even aware of it. It's like of my French friends, I was telling them about the podcast and they're like, people are interested in that. I'm like, yeah, I'm super interested in it. Like, I think there's so many people from my listeners that are interested in this and they find it like just very curious. Like they would say they're just normal people. They probably like a lot of my French friends, like they don't think they're that great. They just think they're living everyday life like all of us are. There's insecurities just like all of us have. They might come off as like they're very confident, but deeper down, like they worry about a lot of the same things we do. And I would say they're more private people. Like they're definitely not the ones that are going to kind of overshare like an American necessarily of everything in their life. And they take a while to get to know. And I would say they probably, at least my French friends, would just find it very like more interesting and they're curious why, because they don't really see themselves that way, which I find also interesting. But I think what's super funny is like, it's not necessarily reciprocated. Like I don't hear my French friends say, oh my gosh, how cool is it to be an American mom? Which I don't know, is kind of a shame. There are definitely things they say about the US that are like, that's so cool. And most of it they get from movies. So like anytime they talk about LA, it's like completely glamorized. Like a lot of them talk about like, I don't know, like high school experiences where you have a locker or going off to university, which is not normal in France. Like you don't go away at 18 and live somewhere for 4 years away from your family. And so they find that part like just super intriguing about the American culture. So there's definitely parts they find intriguing, but I wouldn't say the reciprocity of like what you kind of said was obsession is necessarily the same. But yeah, super good question. I would say, yeah, they just find it more interesting and they're not really sure why. Okay, next question. Provençal Kitchen. Oh, Bridget, I know you. Thank you for your question. Love what you're doing and so proud of you for your getting off the corporate path and pursuing your creative ventures. Super cool. Okay, Bridget said, love your style. Favorite stores and brands. Ooh, okay. Bridget, you know me. She's also been on the podcast. You guys can listen to her episode on Cuckoo. I love shopping. I've loved like fashion and I don't know, clothes and accessories and makeup, the whole thing since I was young. I worked in the industry for a while in New York. And so it's still kind of like in my blood. I think that's maybe also why I love living in France. Like the street style is so cool and I love watching it. And I pick up a lot of like what I want to wear based on street style. I would say I don't follow like influencers about style or anything like that. I really just watch people here and like observe and I look at store windows and that's kind of my vibe of like how I decide what I want to wear and also just like how I want to dress now and what feels good to me. So I would say my favorite stores, I have to say Sézane. I mean, everyone does. I'm obsessed with it. I just think they're like spot on for being like a really like great heritage, but on trend French brand, but also they're now in the US pretty prevalent. For those of you that love Sézane, come to France to buy it. It's like half the price. And I wear so much Sézane in my daily life. And I think I've worn a lot of it on Cuckoo. So that's a great store. There's a lot of other French brands that I love. Sézane, Soeur, and Issey. I'll put these on the show notes because they're hard to say in French, but I would say like more sort of timeless, cool classics with a bit of an like, I wouldn't say edge, but like cool factor to them that I love. Issey is spelled Y-S-E. I love their swimsuits. Isabel loves them too. She got me hooked on them and just super good quality. And I like their kind of like beachy clothes too. And then I can't stop. Oh, and there's a bunch of like local boutiques here. Like this dress is from Stella Suzie, which is a local boutique here based in Toulouse. And then my one like big chain that's from Spain, but all over is Zara. I can't stop shopping Zara. I know it's fast fashion, but like they just hit the mark every time for that season. And so I definitely still do a lot of Zara shopping. And then I would say places I travel, I do pick up like things I like boutique shopping. Like I like some things in Spain that are unique, Portugal, etc. And again, I'm not spending a ton on my clothes. I'm more like, I like buying pieces that I feel really like excited to wear. And that's kind of how I curate my closet. In fact, when I worked in fashion in New York, the like head fashion designer was like, and I was young, and she was like, look, you can wear cheap clothes. I think I was wearing like stuff from H&M, but she goes, but why don't you spend your money on shoes and a handbag, and then your clothes won't matter as much. And so it's always been a motto in my head of like, get good shoes and get good handbags, and then do what you want with your clothes. And it all kind of looks pulled together. So I still sort of abide a bit by that. But I do miss two brands in the US that I'm excited to shop when I go back. I think J.Crew is just such a standard. I love it for kids. I love like staples from there for me. So I'll go back and get a few things from there. Tuckernuck is one I shopped a lot in the US. They don't have international distribution. I've looked, and it's gotten really expensive, but I do love their curation of like boutique-y brands. So I still will probably, I don't know, maybe order some things to the US from there. So that's kind of my list. I'll put some of this in the show notes for you guys. Okay, on our last question. So, okay, these are kind of related. So Kat Meyer Bakehouse wrote, one-stop shop resource for the French law requirements for the visa, etc. Oh my gosh, I wish this existed. I think it does. It's just, I know it's very expensive. I have some friends who've used this. We did not. We sort of did it ourselves with some help of an English-speaking attorney in Paris that, please DM me directly if you're interested in that. But it is a lot to navigate. I'm fully aware. I would say we did like most of this on our own, with my husband doing more of the heavy lifting. We kind of divide and conquered. And yeah, it took a long time. It was frustrating. It's not easy. There are people that can help that do speak English. I will say you'll pay a considerable amount for it, but it's also possible to do it on your own. You just have to have like the time and patience being probably number one. And it helps like if you have a French friend or someone who can just help you at least navigate some of the language beyond like Google Translate, because there's nuances in there that are sort of hard to figure out. So I am happy if you want to DM me directly. I'm happy to ask some friends and find maybe this one-stop shop if that's of interest. But I would say it's not like super common. I would say most of my expat friends here, we all kind of navigated it on our own, except for the ones that were like sponsored by a company that are here, and then the company helped them a lot, or ones that, money was no object and were willing to kind of pay whatever to get a one-stop shop, but it's not necessarily the easiest thing to find. Okay, last question. Kelsey El Conte. She said, I started working for myself and I'm overwhelmed with the French admin paperwork. How did you get your freelance business up and running in France? Oh, Kelsey. Okay, this is a really good question. My first year, I worked on a resident visa, but still with US companies. And that is challenging in some ways, but also it's not legal past like 1 year. So at that same time, I applied for my talent visa. A talent visa allows you to set up your what's the equivalent of an LLC here in France. And then you can legally work, and your husband and kids can all be on this talent visa together. And you're allowed to set up like an enterprise in France, working with both French and US clients. And so I have literally, it's been 2+ years. I just picked my talent visa up. I found out I got approved 4 months ago, then had to wait for the actual paperwork to come to the préfecture, which is like the administrative office. It came there. I finally got it, and it felt like heaven. I was so excited to be legally here, and it buys you at least, I would say, 5 years with the option to renew. So super excited about that. I would pursue a talent visa more than the entrepreneurship visa. There's 2 different types. The entrepreneurship visa only gets you 1 year. The talent visa is a multi-year, and you just have to prove the French minimum wage, which I think is around 20,000 euros a year. So hope that helps. Kelsey, if you have any more questions, please DM me directly, and I'm happy to help you with this. Okay, thank you guys so much. I loved this episode. It was really fun, and I loved all your questions, and it tells me where your mind is at. So I definitely want to do more of these. So even if I don't post a story on this, like, please feel free to send me like your ideas for what questions you have, what future episodes you'd want to see. I'm all ears. So Thank you so much, and à bientôt. Au revoir. Bye.